all of their paychecks is going to, be handed over to the man.
We have to go back to the biblical definition of the institution called marriage.
Do you think that the current Nigerian laws are specifically favorable towards women?
That's the question I would be asking.
I will not condone it.
Hello, you're welcome to Gist Arena. All we do is gist, and gist. We discuss topical, trending, and exciting topics, and we have fun while at it. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy each thrilling moment of gist, and gist. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gist Arena, where all we do is gist, and gist. I trust that you had a wonderful week and a productive one so far, and the weekend is just to sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if it is outing that this weekend needs, enjoy and have fun at your Owambe. I am Cynthia, and I am here with Ayotunde and Dr. Enang on today's gisting episode. Now, Dr. Enang, was here in the last season, and he's here with us again. I guess he had a wonderful time and enjoyed. That is why he is here with us. Welcome, Dr. Enang, and thanks for honoring us a second time. Now to the topic of the day. So this came about through something that made rounds on social media sometime a while back. So I'm just going to quickly recap what what had made round, and then we'll just take it up from there. So basically, this man, he is Nigerian and he is based in the UK. He was saying that a lot of men in his Nigerian guys in his office have had issues with their marriages, and the issues have sort of crippled them in the sense that most of them have had maybe their wife reporting them to the authority, they've lost their home, they've lost everything so that they have worked for, and they have had cause to start all over again. So that sort of brought about conversation on social media saying Nigerian women are not very fair. And specifically, the guys he was referring to are those that, got married to Nigerian women that he had been here in Nigeria, people that they brought over to the UK, and then, that happened to them. So those were the specific sets of people that he was referring to. So now I want to ask, when you're planning to get married, when you're planning on getting married and you are based, abroad, should you consider the adaptability of your spouse? So right now I'm opening it up, whether you're male or female. We know that these things happen to both genders. So whether you're male or female, should you consider the adaptability of your spouse when you're thinking of getting married and you're not both based in the same geographical location? Over to you, Ayotunde and Dr. Enang.
Hi, Cynthia. Hello, everyone. It's good to be on Gist Arena again. A special welcome to Dr. Enang. Thank you for joining us today, and a big congratulations to you as well on your latest achievement as the youngest fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Wow, that's a big one. You really made history with that, and it's quite laudable. Congratulations again, and you're welcome. So I'm just going to go straight, into the business of the day. So should you consider the adaptability of your intended spouse, if they are transiting to your location, that's where you're living? Well, I'm going to say that both of them would need to sit and decide whether the transition, is, how do I say it now? Well, so just, look at the possible effect of the transition, on the person that is transiting, to see the adjustments, to consider the adjustments that would need to be made, and then to see if, there are any kind of, effects, either positive, either negative. They just sit together. I don't think it is just that the person that is in a location that the spouse is coming to that should consider the adaptability. I think the person that is also making the transition should also, think about that. It's something both of them should really sit together and talk about. That's what I think. Because, yes, the truth of the matter, well, for me, I think that in an ideal situation, naturally, a couple should live together, right? So one would think that if two people are married and one is in a different location, and there's, especially if it's a very, very far distance, okay. I mean, now we're looking at people. I mean, someone who is abroad, and then the intended spouse is in Nigeria. That's like oceans apart. So one would probably naturally think that the person in Nigeria should, go meet this other person, because, I mean, how do you get to, if it's just interstate now, that one is even, understandable, but this transatlantic marriage, if the possibility, is it a possibility now? Yeah, if the opportunity arises, I think naturally you would expect that this other person will go meet their spouse abroad. But so I would say that the person that is doing the transition should also be ready to adapt. Except maybe you're not bothered about the fact that you're living so apart from your spouse. If that's not a deal breaker for you, then you may not, you may think that, I can't adapt, or I don't want to adapt, and, just take it like that and stay put where you are, and you both will be managing yourselves. But I think if it's a deal breaker for you, you feel that you need to be in the same space with your spouse, then you yourself, you will need to start considering, how to adapt and make up your mind to adapt. But having said that, I think that the adaptability of, this spouse should not be underestimated, by the other spouse. So you shouldn't just take it for granted that the person will need to adapt. No, I think it's something that they would need to sit down together and, discuss and see, how it profits both of them, in the long run. So it depends again on what, is deal breaker for them. So if they think it's important, for them to be together, then they will need to really look at it, see how, they can navigate that, and then make it happen.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Dr. Ayotunde. It's a huge pleasure having the opportunity to chat with you ladies once more on very important topical issues affecting the society. Dr. Ayotunde, thanks very much for your kind words. I really do appreciate. So, just delving right into this topic, the idea of whether it is important to consider adaptability before marriage, adaptability in the context of, traveling out and looking at whether or not she would still maintain her family values or get carried away. So that topic, for me, if you want to look at it very, clinically, the question is adaptability in this context a function of nature or nurture? So is that lady born to be adaptable or behave properly when she goes out there? Or is it that you have to teach her? Well, I would like to say that from my own perspective, I think adaptability in this context is more of nurture. Either she's been through something previously that has shaped her views and made her not to be carried away and understand that, how life, and family values are supposed to be, upheld, uh, or you would have to do that task. And so, if you're planning to take your spouse abroad, one of the key things is to have a plan as to why you're going out there, what are the important imperatives in terms of family values required to make that journey a success, and most importantly, what does success mean for you? What are the parameters that you define as success? And then, if you're returning, when you are returning. So these conversations, they're difficult conversations, but they must be had, because otherwise, if you just go with time and chance, then things will just go by and you find out that she will be carried away. Now, the second thing is, how do you support each other if you are actually getting out of the line? So is there that sort of intentional stewardship of the plan? So if your wife is getting very much carried away in terms of the way her outlook, and the way she's derailing from the plans that you had prior to relocating abroad, how are you supporting her to call her to place before it begins to get complicated? So these are some of the things that we need to do. And when you talk about family values, maintaining that, making sure she's not getting out of that, is also about getting her from time to time, him or her really, to come home and sort of refamiliarize themselves with the values. And in this sense, I'm not talking theoretically, but coming home to see how marriages actually run at home would give them a more balanced perspective to compare that against what is obtainable abroad. Because once you've lived so long there, you get very easily carried away. So for me, it's about being just intentional. What are you going to do? How intentional are you about it? Do you have a plan in place? And of course, how are you nurturing and supporting each other towards the plan? But it starts with the intentional plans that you would have to put in place first.
Thank you so much, Ayotunde and Dr. Enang, for the points made. I do agree with Ayotunde where you said that the both of them have to actually, consider whether the person coming is going to be able to cope, or the person making the move is going to be able to cope. And for me, I think very importantly is the person actually making the move that should actually sit down and ask themselves, this place I'm going to, what is required of me there? Would I be able to, adapt to this place? Do I currently, do I currently do these things? Even if I don't do it, can I change? A good example is, it's jackpot season and people are, trying to move to other places. And as that is happening, I hear of different stories, especially when it comes to family, of how, maybe after they've relocated or something, they're still having problems in a marriage, and then, wow, it's separation, divorce, all of these things. What I think, which I might be wrong, definitely, I raise my hands up and say I might be wrong, but what sometimes I think about is, didn't they take their time to actually, just have an overview of where they're going, how are things run there, and how can they, how are they going to, maybe change or adapt their current family composition, their current family routine or something like that, to sort of fit into what that place requires. But we'll go in depth very soon. Now, let me direct my next sort of question to Ayotunde. Do you think that the current Nigerian laws are specifically favorable towards women? Do you think they protect them? Because I also think that, especially in the situation where it's the guy that is abroad and is bringing a female, a lot of times the kinds of, let's say for example, they've been married before and the guy was probably here before he actually traveled. The way the family is run, of course, we are talking about family because of the topic anyways, not like the person was here before something. The way family is run sometimes, women have the shorter end of the stick and there's no way for them to fight back. Take for example someone whose spouse sort of emotionally abuses them or verbally abuses them or physically abuses them. Of course, sometimes when they go report at the to the appropriate authorities, I mean, let's say police, because I know that there are some organizations that do actually take very reasonable steps, when people report. Let's say they go to the police, for example. We've heard of stories where, people come and women come and then they are brushed off as if it's nothing or something like that. So do you think that the laws protect them? Because I also think that sometimes when that kind of woman lives in an environment where her voice is never heard, the authorities don't really pay attention, and she goes to that environment where her rights are very important and are protected, and maybe the guy wants to do the same thing. Of course she's inclined to want to take up the opportunity to actually free herself or to liberate herself, and then when she does that, society, the Nigerian society abroad tags her as, oh, this woman is wayward, or this woman has, she like in Yoruba parlance, I don't say that kind of thing. What do you think about that, Ayotunde?
Thank you, Cynthia. Yes, there are laws that protect women's rights on paper. Yeah, yes, I think that there are laws, okay, that protect women. But what I don't know is if these laws are largely enforced, all right, to benefit women. So the question I'll be asking is, how many women have actually benefited, from these laws that claim to protect the rights of women? Okay, maybe lawyers can help us with that. I don't have statistics for that, but that's the question I would be asking. Okay, so it's not a question of if the laws exist, they do, but then are they enforced to favor women largely? Are they? So that's the question that is begging for an answer as far as I'm concerned, because even though these laws exist, we know that gender discrimination is still a huge thing in our society. I mean, except we just want to lie to ourselves. It's still a huge thing. So where are these laws? What roles are they playing at the end of the day if we still have such huge issue with gender discrimination? And then aside that, I think that women really have a lot to deal with, when it comes to how they should or how they are expected to approach marital issues. Okay, so apart from the fact that, like you mentioned, Cynthia, sometimes a woman goes to make a complaint, and then she's brushed off. I've actually heard of instances where a woman goes to complain about a domestic issue, and the law enforcement agent, whether the police or something, says, oh, this is a domestic matter, please go back home and resolve it. So when a woman comes to you with a report or even with evidence and all of that, and all you have to say to her is to go back home, you're not helping to enforce the law one way or the other, then, I mean, for me, that's just not right. But then it does happen. So again, that's why we need to ask the question that even though this law exists today, are they actually enforced? That's one. But then I think that the woman also has to deal with, the societal expectation, because again, except we just want to lie to ourselves, we know that the general mindset, so to speak, or the average mindset, the mindset of the average Nigerian is that a woman, should endure, keep enduring whatever is thrown at you, whether it's bad, whether it's ugly, whether it's debilitating, whether it's even, destructive, whether you are just holding on to your very last breath, just stay there and be taking it all in and be absorbing it and just be enduring. Last, they'll say, pray about it. That's basically, what she gets. That's how she's expected to approach issues in our relationships and our marriage. And the fact that maybe a family, or the man's family, colleagues, church members, even a random person in the society expects her not to, take any other step other than to just, stay there and learn helplessness, and just keep enduring, that alone seem paralyzing, such that she will probably not even think of, going the legal route, because I think that to a very large extent, many of us would rather sacrifice our well-being for public appraisal, for what would people say. I think that is something that happens a lot, and so I don't want people to see me in this particular light. I don't want people to say I'm this. I don't want people to look at me one way. So I would rather just keep it this way and just be enduring. So it's a thing. It's like an abomination for a woman to actually say she wants to go the legal way, or to seek legal redress about some marital issues in this society. All right. And then, of course, in our society, that is, that's another thing. If you're without a man, if you're not married or something, it's as if you're not complete. It's as if you're not whole. So those kind of things also can make a woman not want to do things that would appear to jeopardize a marriage, even if a situation is so horrible in that marriage. So I think, apart from the law protecting, whether the law protects the woman or not, there are other forces she has to deal with regards to that. But I'm sorry, before I just stop talking, I want to ask Dr. Enang to please quickly clarify something for me, because you said something about couples. We are talking about Nigerian couples and couples who are abroad, Nigerian couples who go abroad to live there, about them coming home once in a while to sort of like take a refresher course in marriage, come back to see how marriage works here. And I'm wondering, is marriage, the marriage composition in Nigeria, is that a yardstick, or what's the need for them to come back to come and see how marriage works here? How about how it works over there? Is there something wrong with how marriage marriage setup over there? Is there something wrong about it? Is the one here in Nigeria, is that the right one or the best? I'd just like some clarification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayatunde. So, in short, the laws might be available, but the implementation and the actual coverage is what is most probably lacking. Very well. So, in addition to what you've asked Dr. Enang to clarify, Dr. Enang, I'd like to know. So, because we're speaking specifically, about a certain general scenario, which is the fact that the man, is quotes abroad, unquote, and then he's planning on bringing, or he brings a woman over from Nigeria. I mean, do you think that, well, based off the stories that we've heard, is there a problem with the way that these men expect things to run? So, most often than not, if you're there, sort of the culture is sort of, pulling in. Both parties are working to pull into the marriage and everything, or to the home front. From at least the separation and divorce stories I have heard, what ends up happening is the man wants to, they sort of want the wife to work, and as well as still perform 100% on the home front. This leads me to believe that sometimes the men have the Nigerian mentality in a functioning sort of, maybe let's say, European environment. What do you think about that? Over to you, Dr. Enang.
Hi, Tunde. Hi, Cynthia. Very wonderful, insightful conversations going on there. And, I'll just tackle Cynthia's question first. So basically, in order to gain a good appreciation about what the problems are in terms of family problems there abroad, we need to sort of have a feel or an understanding for how life goes there. So abroad, the Western economy has actually been designed to ensure that you can't really do it on your own. That's the truth. And I'll just digress a bit and give you some really key examples. If you look at the geography of England, for example, the lands where we actually have planning permit for building, not the ones for agriculture, are exhausted, literally. So we have properties already on them. And these properties span over hundreds of years. I lived in one, the mayor of Bath lived in the property that I lived in when I was in the University of Bath in Somerset, UK. So what does the UK do? They try to make sure that by increasing the standard of living, that also goes with the cost of living. You now have a situation where from generation to generation, there's always a pool of people that cannot retain some properties and they have to send it back into the market. And that's why younger people can get money to buy properties. The properties are not built, unlike Nigeria. Now, what that means is that there is an economy which has been engineered to make sure you cannot do it on your own. How do the Indians do it? The Indians will simply get, come in. They're quite large in numbers. Each child will get a little mortgage and get a property. They wait for the property market to appreciate. They sell that property, collect the money from the sales that they've mortgaged their property. If there's a gain, they collect that gain, amalgamate it together in terms of group economics, and go and buy one property off the market at once. So what they've done is that each of them have made gains from buying and holding properties for a long time, and they all sell their properties, take the money, buy one, and all live there. It's very strategic. Sometimes, or they buy and rent, and all of them live in one property, but the rest are rented, and they use the money from there to pay off one property, and they repeat the same cycle until they claim all properties. So, what am I saying to you is, yes, in Nigeria, that is different, because instead of having my extended family, or in India, you can live with an extended family, in one entire building. You can have 10 people living, there's no issue, but it's not typical in Nigeria of today. So what they now do, spouses, to surmount the economic odds of living abroad, the spouses now have to, demand that from each other. They work very hard to make sure that they bring something to the table. So the driver is not the man. The driver is the economy. That being said, the man should be able to take some sort of compromise on the home front to know that, well, it is what it is. We have to be able to, step back on our expectations. Now, the issue that Ayotunde raised, which is this Nigerian marriage, is actually a yardstick. Now, we have to go back to the biblical definition of the institution called marriage. It was founded on love. It talks about Jesus loving his own bride, which is the church. It was founded on God. And anything short of these foundations, you find out that it's just a ticking time bomb. I would like to say that it's either you want your marriage to work or you don't want it to work. And if you're trying to be at akimbo and waiting for any opportunity that comes your way for you to prove that you're right, then it's, people say you might as well marry yourself, to be honest, because it won't work. So let me deal a little bit deeper. When I say Nigeria, I'm talking about a marriage that is founded on family values. That's what I'm talking about. A marriage that is, institutionalized on the fact that you understand family values. There's no gains as to, what am I going to, what property am I going to get with this one? I know there are marriages that are even worse than the one abroad here, but when you see, there are a lot of marriages also that are founded on those family values. And that's the difference there. The marriage there is operated on the law. What has he done? Is he against the law? Yeah, let's deal with him. No. Should that be the basis? The basis should be family values. The basis should be, we have, we want to be, intentional, and it's from both parties. When I talk about it, it's not like wife. When I say couples should come, they need to come back and look at how it was done traditionally. How did our own parents marry each other? In our grandparents' case, some of the women would even go out and marry a second wife for their husband. I mean, they've given birth completely, but they feel, I'm older. Let me get someone younger to take care of him. And they were still functional. I'm not saying that is right, but what drove them was the understanding and the family values which surpassed all legalities. The law is not going to fix your marriage. And likewise, the society is not going to fix your marriage. Philosophy is not going to fix your marriage. There's got to be a genuine intention to invest in that marriage, including coming back to, because sometimes abroad, you all have examples of failed marriages, at the slightest provocation. But you come back here and somebody is telling you their own story and what has held them on. That is an inspirational story. As I said, the outcome of any marriage discussion is not to abbrace couples with the law so that anytime they can fight, they can, for lack of a better word, they become Indaboskis of marriage. No. The idea is to understand that it is ups and down. The idea is to understand that what held in the first place, is it family values? I mean, is it the fact, and what can you do to make it work? That's the idea of marriage. So I would encourage people, come back. If there are good examples there, please take it. But I see more that here, because, and let me tell you something, when you have options, it could actually impair you being able to make one of them work. You could be confused out there because the law exists. A lot of couples don't even make an effort. They know the outcome already. If it comes to divorce. We are ready. We know what it is. But I'll tell you here, because there is no enforcement of any outcome, there's that genuineness to make it work. You talk about society. I know the society, what their perception is. Those things put us in check. Otherwise, women here, when we want to copy something, we'll copy it in extremities. So otherwise, but those things put us in check. They are there like fever to say, no, you are not feeling fine. No, this is not acceptable. They put us in check. And so I would say, whichever way you see a marriage that is built on family values, please go and copy it. It's not smooth. It's not supposed to be that each time things go wrong, you go and look at the lines of the law as to what to enforce next. You might as well marry yourself now, because that thing is not easy. You know? So I would say in all, the whole marriage issue is something that God must drive it. It is something that God has recognized. And remember, it is one of such first miracles in the ministry of Jesus. As such, I would tell you, if you don't find it, and let me tell you, out there, because everything appears deterministic, there's that consciousness as to, okay, let's just do A, we'll do B. We know where it is. Okay, if this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. I've been living out there for over 10 years. My prayer life went down the drain because it was so deterministic. You wake up in the morning, you just have to do what you say you will do, and the results will be obvious. And so you think that everything in this life is going to work that way, but marriage will shock you. And so I tell people, have a mindset. Sometimes the options are not there because God gives you just one option, that is to make it work. And every other thing is against all odds. And once you change your mindset that it's going to work, it will work. Remember, it takes two to tango. And if one is not engaging, then of course, over time, even the other party will say, no, you don't do. Go and look at your marriage, forget about what the stories they paint. The reality, you will see something differently. That's why I never get into talking about marriage issues, because I don't know exactly, who did what. And I can't verify the story. So I would pretty much, just end it all by saying we just have to have a mindset to make our marriages work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enan, for sharing your thoughts with us. I don't agree that we should go back to how it was done back in the day. I mean, what we have back then is where one party, as far as I know, most often than not, endures to make it work without sort of finding their happiness. And this is evidenced by, stories that we've heard from our mothers, because they were the ones that had to most often not make the sacrifices, and then we realized that they've just endured and they'll probably not find their happiness throughout their living, so they just lived sort of a life of sacrifice, so to say. And then with present day, there's this new awakening that life is not to be endured but to be enjoyed. Last every party should just wake up and step up to the reality of what we have. And if anybody chooses to sort of live in those days, to sort of find just so that they can align to family values, maybe they should really not do anything that is modern. But that's by the way, that's my own opinion. Thanks so much for sharing your opinion. So I want to talk about something that we've seen more recently, and has always it has always been a point of discussion, where we have this party that is probably installed abroad, and they're looking for a way to sort of make their lives better, and then they realize that there's some particular disciplines where there are a lot of money, and then we're talking about the medical field, nursing and medicine specifically. And so they come to from the stories that I have heard, is mostly when the guy would come to sort of Nigeria here, or to his local country, to look for a spouse, a wife, marry her, and then take her abroad and have her enrolled in maybe a school to study nursing, or a school mostly I've heard of nursing, but I know that there's also the doctoral part of it, because they are very, very lucrative fields. And so have the person start working, and so the person is working. At the end of the day, they are handing their paycheck over to this man that has married them, so that they can then, so they almost don't even have control over their own lives, or over how the money that they make is being spent. And the point for this is, for most probably, the man that has brought them over will sponsor their education, but throughout their lives, after they have graduated and gotten a job, all of their paychecks is going to, be handed over to the man. And we only get to hear of these stories maybe when the woman is tired, she feels like she's just like a mom, she has sacrificed a lot and everything. What do you think of this situation? Over to you, Ayotunde and Dr. Enang.
Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for your points. Just to clarify, I just feel that if we, for once, just give, sort of chance to the real bond of marriage, and each party does the same thing, we should be fine. I need to trace this back to what the whole intent of the Garden of Eden was. It was intended that everyone would be unaware of knowledge, and as such, there'll be no choice of good and evil, and such you won't even know if you're doing, you don't even know to do bad. I think that was the original plan, until everything scattered. If you bring that into marriage, what I'm saying is that the moment people get aware of legal means, men or women, of exploiting it to an advantage, the human nature would naturally shift and blindfold themselves against all other amicable options, which are quite longer, really. It's quite a very long approach, and it takes a lot of effort. They look for the shortest route. But what I'm saying is that if that route is the legal route, it's not in each other's favor, because if the family breaks apart, the children would suffer. Now, I'm talking about the one where the spouse will bring the wife. I mean, I haven't heard of that scenario before. I'm not aware. But to be honest, I think that is unacceptable. You don't bring someone over, make them to, do a course, and with the intent. I mean, you could suggest the course. You could let them know that there are short-term benefits. That even as a student, you could start earning money. And of course, money becomes a key driver, especially in those economies. But the aspect of collecting the money on their behalf is unacceptable. I don't know how to explain it. I've never come across it. And frankly speaking, I will not condone it. So those are just my thoughts.
Before I get to Cynthia's question, I just want to thank Dr. Enang for shedding more light on my inquiry. I picked two things from what he said. He mentioned family values. I agree that family values are important. I actually think that these values should drive the actions of the people involved in a marital relationship, people within a family. The things they do should be geared towards protecting and upholding, the family values. They should do things that align with their family values. So I agree with that point. And that just takes me to the second point. And I want to thank him again for stressing that it takes two to tango. And this really is my bone of contention, whenever this type of discussion, comes up. I believe that it takes the two individuals in a marital relationship to make that marriage work. It is not the responsibility of just one person. One person should not be the one putting in all the work. One person should not be the one doing all the heavy lifting or bearing, most of the burden, or taking, most of the responsibility of making that marriage work. It's two people. The two of them, should come together, make up their minds, and decide that their marriage must work. And the two of them must put in the necessary effort, must put in the necessary work, must make the necessary commitment, must do everything, that will make the marriage work. And I believe that, the work that is put in by both parties should be proportional. It's not, again, like I said, it's not one person doing most of the work. It's not one person doing the most, taking, most of the responsibility. No, it has to be a collective effort, and the effort must be proportional. That is what working, means in my own dictionary. When you say, oh, it's working, then it is, for me, it is two people, putting in, the collective work, the collective effort, and, proportional too. And I actually think that in a case like that, when two people come with that mindset that we are going to do everything, both of us, we will put in all the work that is needed to make the marriage work, then there won't even be a need for someone to say, I want to seek, legal redress, or I want to apply the law. In the first place, there won't be a need for that. So the things that what we should be stressing is the fact that two people must, put in proportional effort. If that is done, nobody will feel slighted. Nobody will feel like, they are on the receiving end. Nobody will feel like they have the shorter hand of the stick in the first place, because that won't be the situation. And so there won't even be the need to, apply the law. I believe that a relationship, any relationship, and I'm not even talking about man-woman relationship now, but any human interaction, should be symbiotic in nature. Okay, symbiotic relationship where both parties give, and they also receive, again, in proportional measures. Not, parasitic situations where the life is sucked out, or is almost sucked out of one person, and then the other person, seems to be enjoying all the perks and everything like that. That should not be the case. And it is when, such things happen that someone, gets to their breaking point, or they reach the end of their rope, that, they decide to go the legal route. Okay? And that's when the law actually becomes functional. And I actually do not see the law, as being there to break homes, to break marriages. The same way that societal expectations, probably are there to put us in check so that we don't get out of line in some cases. I believe that that's also how the law, on the other end of the spectrum, how the law is there to apply, checks and balances, so that one party is not, unduly cheated or mistreated, or stuff like that. So that's why the law is there. And if both parties will do the right thing, will do right by one another, then there won't even be a need to say, you want to seek legal redress or anything like that. That's what I believe. Now, getting to Cynthia's question, I think, I align with Dr. Enang, because honestly, it is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to me. Things like that, when I hear that, things like that happen, I just wonder. I wonder, how it is that, what is going on in some people's minds when they get married, actually? Because I think, well, the truth is that a lot of people get married for different reasons anyway, because I don't know how, you feel that you should treat your significant other in some very, very unpleasant ways. I mean, how does that even make sense? This is your immediate family member, for crying out loud. How can you bring somebody from wherever to come and train as a medical personnel, and then when they've gone through all the rigor and everything, you're not saying submit your paycheck to me? Come, why didn't you do it yourself? I mean, there are male nurses and stuff like that. Okay, so why don't you go to school, nursing school, or just go and train as a medical personnel or something like that, and start earning the money? Why would you need to to ask somebody else to do that, and then you turn your wife into a cash cow? I mean, who does that? And then you now come and say, oh, I brought how, I trained how, this kind of things. I'm like, please, if you don't train your wife, who will train her? I mean, that's the truth. These are the things we need to do for one another, isn't it? So some people will be bragging, I brought her from Nigeria, from the village. I brought him. Before Uncle, who will you bring? You're living elsewhere. So who will you bring to come and live with you if it's not your spouse? So how do you think you earn a bragging right for that? Is that not what it should be? So please, if you think that, I don't even understand. You will say, I trained her. Biko, I will return your money. The money you used to train. Okay, take it, collect it back, so that I can have some peace. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. And like Dr. Enang said, I do not condone it either. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the both of you for sharing your thoughts with us. And with that, we've come to the end of this episode. I've absolutely had a wonderful time, and I trust that you, our listeners, as well, have enjoyed the discussion we have had today. Please follow us on our Instagram handle at Gist Arena ending with a double A, and on YouTube at Gist Arena. Until next time, please remain blessed, stay positive, and have a lovely, lovely, lovely week. Enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Gist Arena. We hope you enjoyed the topic discussed. Please drop your comments and let us know what you think about it. We'll definitely love to hear from you. Until next time, bye!